mean, I'll be running by myself. No one's gonna go with me. Let's be honest. My brother's gonna want to go surf. My husband's gonna want to play golf.
Golf, yeah. Who will he golf with? Does your dad
No
golf?
one. Oh God, no.
And your brother doesn't golf.
Todd's gonna like brood. Although he has a girlfriend. I haven't told you. Oh my God.
Ooh.
My little brother has a girlfriend, which is like a big deal. And
Is she coming?
yeah, she's coming.
Ooh.
Met her. So I don't know. We'll probably like take walks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should be great.
Fantastic. It's exactly what people live in Hawaii for.
Yeah, right. You mean they don't go to run 10 miles every morning? What's wrong with them?
They go walks. They go on walks.
So disappointed. Like, he's not
Yeah, like what? Why don't you do the same thing? Like what?
Oh, so cute.
The tails.
But then I still need to book all my Berlin stuff. Like I haven't.
Run Berlin?
Yep, I haven't booked. I deferred. I haven't booked my airfare or my hotels, which like it's all so expensive. I'm just like bracing for it.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be so good.
That'll be fun.
So that's end of September?
Yeah.
End of September?
I also haven't booked air because I don't know if I'm gonna leave from SFO or Chicago because I think Chris will take Ellie to Traverse City while I'm gone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And I'm like, maybe I just won't run another marathon after that ever. I don't know. I think I might be done.
No, it'll get easier. Like first few nights, like are these the first few nights you're gonna spend away from her?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's hard.
No, I mean just in general. Like I don't know if I want to run another
Okay, you're like,
marathon. Yeah.
it's a long. The half is like
Oh.
great.
This is so funny because I'm like, this is the first time I. Oh,
Okay. Okay.
amazing. When do we go?
Should we do like 30 minutes since we're starting late or 40 minutes?
Whatever.
What are we
Yeah.
doing? Okay. Okay.
Oh wait, is that? Okay, do we just go? Oh, hi. This is so exciting. It's our first live event, our first time recording any podcast in person. Runners of the Bay started in the pandemic, and then we just kept going with the virtual. So we're excited to be here. So yeah, welcome to the Runners of the Bay podcast, live here with San Francisco Running Company. Thanks for having us. I think as we've been talking to Ted and Helke about this event, one thing that we've been talking about is sort of as Bridget and I conceptualize the podcast. Hi, this is Mimi, by the way. Bad introductions. SFRC has always been a company and a community that we've really admired. Starting with attending some of the group runs and getting to know folks in the community. And so when Helke reached out, it was like the manifestation of our dreams, because we had been a little too timid to reach out or to think about doing something. And so we're so just honored and excited to be here and really looking forward to this partnership. So when we say we were excited about this and have been looking forward to it, I think that's the understatement.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So we're really pumped to have the honor to interview the owner, sole proprietor, head honcho, CEO, whatever we want to call it, of SFRC, Mr. Ted Knudsen. Thanks for having us. And we're going to, we have one mic that we're going to share. And so going to hold me accountable to making sure other people talk. No one wants to hear the sound of my voice this whole time. So Ted, did you run today?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Podcast's over.
I can tell you why.
Yeah, tell us why.
Every other week we have the house cleaned at 8:00, and so we do our breakfast thing, Amy and I, and it's too early to get the dog on the ridge and be out of the house by 8. So Monday's typically a rest day.
And is it one of those things like if it doesn't happen in the morning, it doesn't happen?
100%.
Gotcha.
Yeah, those afternoon runs, the afternoon evening runs hit very different. So let's go back. What did running sports look like for you as a child?
That's a good one. So in high school, and I graduated in the '80s, just so everybody knows that. I played basketball, and preseason was fall. That was training, and the coach made us run this kind of. It was off campus. It was this loop after school, and at first I didn't like it, and then I got actually a pair of running shoes, and then I enjoyed the training more than the basketball. So my senior year I didn't play, and the coach. One of the best things that ever, like a very impressionable thing that an adult said to me at 17 was he was a teacher, Mr. Swanitz, and he said I said, well, I was really getting into triathlons too at that point. So I said I don't want to play basketball, even though I was like on the path to do that. And he said, you can come back whenever you want. And that just kind of like took all the pressure off. And I'm like, great, I leaving on good terms. And that's stuck with me my entire life of like, do what you want to do, because if you don't love doing this, like go do something that you love.
Yeah. So you found that you loved the training and running. So what did that look like going forward? When you decided to not go back to the team, were you like, all right, now I'm going to try this running thing? Did you join the cross country team, the track team?
So, I'd never ran track in high school. My junior year, I did back then it was the Santa Barbara half Ironman triathlon. I was about fifth from last. And then I started training seriously for that. And then next year they shortened it a little bit, but I know I came out of the water like 250th and I passed 200 people on the bike and the run. So I was hooked at that point. Like I had endurance. And if I look back, the endurance bug was early because back when you could do bike-a-thons for schools, I wasn't about raising the most money. I was about doing the most laps. And so I would sit on that 10 speed with, no biking shorts, just like regular shorts for 6 hours and do it and do the most mileage. And that's what I was about.
So it is, I would say, probably not typical for a high schooler to do a half Ironman. Like that's a lot of training. That's a lot of dedication. So on the bike-a-thon front, I just would like to share that when I was in 4th grade, I got second place in my school's jogathon, and people were like, who is this girl? Because she has not been athletic, and I don't know, it foretold things to come. So I knew that I had the endurance bug. But like when you're in high school and there's all of these other things going on, how did you stay focused on training, especially when it's 3 different sports?
Another fortuitous. So I grew up in Solvang, which is San Ynez Valley near Santa Barbara, and it just happened that year that I got really into triathlon. At noon, they had open swim at the pool, like public swim. And the first day I go there, there's this guy just like doing laps, and his name is Magnus Lundqvist. He was the Finnish national champion at long course and European Ironman champion, and he was wintering in Solvang. So he's like, he just took me under his wing, and I saw a pro training right in front of me, and so I just mimicked what he was doing, but he was like so much faster. But yeah, that was just pure luck on my part.
Do you think that's where, was it people like him in your life that like sparked the endurance bug? Was that there and then you see them and that gives you like a framework or examples of this happening? Like, it's like a kind of a chicken and the egg question. What comes first?
I guess I always liked longer, harder stuff. Like, I don't know, that's just wired in my brain. Like when I think about a run or a hike or whatever, it's like, oh, how much further can we go? How much faster can we go, kind of thing. Not that I'm ever going to win a race or anything, but that's just always been in my mindset for some reason. I was never a sprinter. And I can go back to in my sophomore year, I had this weird, it wasn't, it was toxoplasmosis, is like cat scratch fever. And I lost basically all my quick twitch fiber. Like I used to be really fast and I got mediocre in speed. So I just went to endurance after that.
I'm really interested too in this idea of like place. So obviously Runners of the Bay is focused on runners in the Bay Area and community. And Solvang is such an interesting town. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up there and how you found your place in your community in sports there?
So the San Ynez Valley has a little local newspaper. It's still there. And this is like the very like selfish part is every week on Thursday they would have athlete of the week. I never got that. Never ever. and it's I don't know why. It was one of those things I just felt like it was going to be one of those like I got to do something good enough to never got recognized as that. So I think that was one of my like little small town problems, right? Solvang is a Danish founded community. I'm half Danish. My dad immigrated in the 50s. Funny enough, there's a mission there, so it's really was founded way before that. But anyways, the Danes will take credit for that. It's very small townish. Nothing's open past 6. You know everybody, and like you still know everybody. It's funny when you walk into some place. It's like, oh, I went to the high school with that person, or it's just so interconnected. It's kind of funny. So how did it? And I will say the secret's out. So when I was doing my initial triathlon training, you can ride a bike there for miles and hit like one stop sign. So I had the best cycling, and it was just me, and it was just one other guy named Dan Henry, and there's a road named after him, a bike route. That was it. And there was a Solvang Century once a year. And then USPS Postal, and Lance Armstrong found the valley. And suddenly, that was after I'd already gone, but it was like, it was out. And so all these pro teams started showing up there to do their winter training. But I knew about it way before they did.
Before it was cool.
We're glad you didn't get caught up in that. But so, post Solvang, post first triathlon, like what did running look like afterwards? Did you focus on running alone, or was it more 3-sport athlete?
So I went to UC San Diego mostly because that's where every triathlete was, down in San Diego, and you had at the Triton Pool it was Mark Allen, like all the top guys were there every day. I just wasn't fast enough, and then I got the rock climbing bug, and then suddenly running became just fitness to get into the mountains, and that's how I maintained that. And we climbed way too much, but those friendships have lasted 40 years later, whatever it is now. I'm not almost that long. So that's what I did most through college was climbing, but the running was conditioning for the big mountains. So like climbing the Sierras and climbing Alaska and stuff like that.
Well, if there's a Climbers of the Bay podcast out there, you got to get on it. But getting back to the running, ultimately you do start to sign up for some races. Like, did you, in all of the training for climbing, like, did you get the itch to be competitive? How did that come about?
So once I moved to the Bay Area in '94, dabbled a little bit in triathlon because I was working at Autodesk, and there's several good triathletes there. But then I just kind of it was a time problem, and you can't do that much stuff. So I gravitated towards running, and I was going to do back before Point Reyes was a national park or a seashore. There was a half marathon out there. No, a marathon, sorry, trail marathon. And I thought, I'd run the San Francisco Marathon twice, and I was like, this is the next step. And it got canceled because it was weather like this. And then I did, in 1995, my first ultra, which was my first trail race, which was the Point Reyes 50K. And I also lived out there, but which is now the Headlands 50K turned into that. But then I was hooked. After that, I never touched the road again. I just stayed on the trails. And so this is, 28 years later, still running trail races. So.
How did you know to go straight to like a trail marathon or an ultra? Who's around you that's telling you about these things? Is it a feeder from the triathlon community? Okay.
So there was a guy named Bart at Autodesk. He was the head of the help center, and you guys all know about rim to rim to rim. These guys were doing this back in '93, '4. Back then, it was like super illegal. Still is, but they would be like, you can't shoot. I mean, the Rangers were on you. They knew if it was more than two people. But anyway, these guys were doing that back then, and so we started. Some of their runs were on the trail, and that was the influence. And then if you go, there was a lot. There was only one real communication method, and that was Ultra Running Magazine back then. And then Stan's, Run Hundreds was the de facto, and that was about 90, internet came around about 96, 97 for everybody. So that was the only source of information for where to go on a run. And back then, like Cool 50K was just this last weekend. That was paper entry. And by the time I found that paper entry, it was already full, even back then. So that was pre, ultra sign up and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you had to scan the magazines and get that check in. There was just no other way to do it.
As you start to do more of these races, like what does racing become about for you?
So I've never won a race. I will never win a race. It was being competitive with myself, but not like ever. I knew I couldn't win. Like that's just not part of it. It was more like, could I go faster, more efficient, or feel better at the end? I just love being out on the trails. I mean, as a kid, I started backpacking in Boy Scouts and that kind of stuff. And we have a family cabin up in the Southern Sierra. And so that's been a huge, I mean, I was up there when I was like 4 months old. So I've been up there for 53 years straight, every summer. So like it's in my blood. Like I can't not be in the big mountains. So.
Okay. Do you think so? As someone whose partner is an engineer, you're an engineer, and did the Ironman stuff. Like, is there a connection there, like between the engineering mentality, someone who has that mindset, and the desire to do something that is really hard and long?
Not if you're my husband. He's not that kind of engineer.
I think it's just the opposite in my life, especially with the store and my software engineering career and other businesses that I'm involved with. You're never done. Like nothing is ever complete. If you go on a long run or finish a race, like you finished it. It's like a task that is done, and it's very, very satisfying when the rest of your life is like never quite complete, or there's always a different deadline or feature cut or whatever. Like it's just very nice to have a completion. And you check it off. And I think also it's like you like knowing you've done all this stuff, like and I do several races I've done too many times, and you guys all know so sometimes it's the challenge. Like the Quad Dipsy is like a giant chess match, and I've only gotten it right twice out of how many times I've run it. So it's definitely a challenge. And then I think the 100-mile races are the pinnacle of execution. Like, can you do it right? And then at some point you get into a mindset that's very Zen, I guess is the right word to use there, where all that matters is moving, eating, and drinking. And it's like, it's such a simple state. And with how wild our life is, it's like, it's pure. And it's a very satisfying moment. And it lasts with you for a long time. I think most people in this room can have done something to that distance. And it's like, you can go back and just relive that. It's very painful and it's very long and all that stuff. But there's these moments of just like, okay, that's really good.
So neither Bridget nor I have run anything longer than a marathon. Not to say that one day we won't, but one of the things that we love about the marathon is that it is this puzzle, right? Like what you just said, how do you crack it? So what I haven't quite cracked is like the Boston Marathon. Just haven't gotten it right yet. Some other things I feel like I've gotten right. So like, what have you gotten right? And then what surprises you every single time? Like if you think you've gotten you said you've got the Quad Dipsy right twice. Like what did you think you got right, but then you really didn't get right? how much time we have?
I was trying to call my phone, on my watch. Um, so with the quad, so for the quad dipsy, for my skill level, a sub 5 hour finish is who's calling me? Is the right, like, it's a time the course record is well under 4 hours, but sub 5 means like you really have to put a good effort into doing it. And the first time I did it was my 10th finish. I did like 4:58. And then the second time I did like a 4:49, which that one, it was raining. So I kept cool. Like, I just executed every lap to the time that I needed. And it was very difficult, but I was in the right shape. I ate well. The weather was good for me at that time. The trail conditions were good. It was just everything aligned, and I've not come anywhere close to that time since. This will be my 25th this year, and it's like I'm only getting slower, and it's just much harder not to crack. I wish I could bottle that one, like what training block led up to that. That's one of those kind of like, it's the perfect golf game. Like, you'll have that one great round of golf, and you'll chase it for the rest of your life. But at least you had one. That's the important one. So I think when you've had that good race, you can be satisfied. And like, maybe I'll get it back. Maybe I'll do better, but at least you had it. And I think that's really important, to know that you were capable of that kind of execution that one time.
I think too, like thinking about, we all can have a great training block, and then race day can be awful for a variety of reasons. So how do you think about training versus racing? Is the training and those sort of solo runs, are they just as meaningful as those races?
Yeah. You always look back when you have that good performance, is like, was there this one or two long runs typically for the ultra distance before that where you kind of felt like, oh, okay, I'm everything's kind of aligning. And there's been other times where you're like, just nothing was good leading up to that, and you still had a okay performance, but you look back and you go, yeah, nothing was an indicator that I should have done well that day. So if I knew the answer to that, I'd be a coach and I'd charge a lot of money. I think that's just one of those very difficult things, and I think as I'm getting older here, you look at these Olympians who are, my example is like, you do a Michael Phelps. He's got like 20 gold medals. Like, how many people in this room have ever touched a Olympic medal? And then, do you even know someone who's been in the Olympics or qualified? Like, it's like that. It's those people that can execute over and over. I mean, that's such a rare, like, whatever he does to focus that much to win, like, that's an amazing thing when it's such a rarefied air. And when that's why I think the Olympics is, and this kind of off topic, but is so cool, is because you have to perform at that very specific time. It's not like, oh yeah, I had a great game. It's like, no, you have to peak at that moment. And I think that's amazing. So if we look at in the ultra world, like at Jim Walmsley, when he executed, he didn't finish, or he did poorly at several Western States, but then he executed. And on that day, there was nothing going to stop him when he set the course record. And it was like, that's an amazing execution. Like, he should be the best coach at later, because he knew exactly what to do to lead up to that. So if I had the answer again, I'd be a coach.
Off topic, but my favorite Michael Phelps story is apparently when he set I think this was 2008, when he set the world record in I don't know if it was the 50 or the 100 fly. There was like, he dove into the pool, but his goggles filled up with water and he couldn't see, but he knew exactly how many strokes he needed for each lap, and he was just able to execute. And it's like, that kind of precision is amazing. So maybe like shifting gears a little bit, we want to talk about SFRC and this incredible community that you've helped cultivate. So you took over in 2019. What drew you to that? Coming from a career in tech to then going all in on running.
Well, the initial plan wasn't all in.
It'll get you.
Yeah, that pandemic thing kind of put a twist in that. I had a successful software company with two other partners. We sold that. I was able to. Brett was moving with Larissa to Colorado with Strava, and the opportunity was there. And I bought the first pair of shoes from Brett. Used my truck to, if you guys remember that treadmill at Mill Valley, like I bought hats out of his back of his car before he even had the place. I was kind of in it from the very beginning. And when he approached me, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then it was right in the middle when my dad got really sick and eventually passed away. It was like the deal was off and then it was on. It was just like there was too many things happening. Eventually it was on. And my original goal was to be a silent owner because I just wanted to let it, run. But then the pandemic happened and you had to be all in. And we left the other company because of the buyout and all that stuff. So learned a lot. When you have no money coming in, you got to cut expenses. You get real smart real quick about what is not necessary to run the business and what is. And I would say that anybody who complains about paying taxes and the small business support out there, those PPP loans were essential to keeping this place open. So you may have heard people cheating about that stuff, but like for most small businesses, it was crucial. And then about a year and a half ago, I had 100% turnover. So like right when we thought I was going to get out of this whole thing, then literally everybody went back to work or went back to school or did something else. And that's when McKay, who was my Hoka rep, called me and said, she's like, hey, so what's the this is my McKay voice.
Do we want to do a reenactment of the phone call? All right.
It's really, she sent me a text saying, I'm asking for a friend, what's the, compensation benefits? And I just picked up the phone and called her. I'm like, who are you? Who's interested? And she's like, it's me. And I had to be, and I had to be like, she's my rep. And I knew her boss. And I was like, is this really going to be cool or not? It was. We worked it out. And so it was September of 21. She started, and she's my GM, and she keeps this place running for me. So, like, without her, Amy, my girlfriend in the back there, I think I would have had a breakdown by now or something because I love the community. And I guess people shouldn't take this completely wrong. Like, I love the stores and I love the community, but there's certain, like, I can do everything I need to keep this business running, but like buying shoes is not my favorite thing to do at all. Preseason orders, like, if anybody else can do that, which McKay does great at, I will pass that off because that's one of those, like, you can do certain skills, but you just know that there's people that are way better and enjoy it and really get into it. She's one of them. It's not my jam at all. So finding the right people to help you run the business is super key. And having Helke now with the marketing and those types of duties, like events, like that just makes me more creative. And I experienced this way back in my tech days. So I knew, like, I kind of knew, like, I need to not do this certain things because I'm just going to, like, grind myself down. I was with this startup, and it was 2001, and one of the famous .com blow-ups at that time. But anyway, we survived that. But the boss, who was the genius, Robert Wenig, he was the CEO, and he was just like, he had to do all this CEO stuff. And they hired a real CEO, and then he became what he was, just the creative genius. And boom, the product just took off. And it was like, he's the right guy he was the mad scientist. That's what he needs to be. He's not a CEO. And so identify your strengths. This is life advice, right? And find the people that are good at what you're not good at, and you can be successful with that. So that's how the store, small business is tough. There's just anybody who wants to go open a small business, it's like, it's a great job, but it's going to be the most work you will ever do in your entire life. So I'm at the stores, both stores, every day. Not during business hours necessarily, but I'm here every day. So that's just something that, like, you'll get a call from the police, like someone left the rack out. Like, there's just something is, it's San Anselmo, so it's luckily no one steals anything. But
Call me, I'll come take it.
yeah, exactly. It's the sale rack, so it was all extra large anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that's the kind of stuff that just happens all the time. Or the HVAC dies, or you got to put up the floodgate because it's, a flood. It's San Anselmo, and you have to do that. I mean, it's always something that seems to be happening. But then you have these great, like the podcast thing, and we got Packet Pickup Friday, and they're, doing the aid station on Saturday, and then we're helping out with the Women's Month, and it's like there's just all these fun things happening, and then Chris, who's here, starts the Saturday morning group runs, and it's like the energy from 50 people going on a group run is like it's amazing, and you see that whole crowd go off, and you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then you got Tony here, who's like takes these great pictures and makes you look good, and it's just all that stuff. It adds up, and that's when you're really, really happy about it. But like when you got to pay the HVAC, guy to fix it, like, no, that's the worst part.
I love that answer. And I think, the community that SFRC has is legendary. Like, beyond Bay Area, this is, I think, a place that runners hear about, and you've nailed the retail space, the uniqueness, the nicheness, and that hard to pin down thing that like everybody wants to be a part of, whether you're kind of watching what's happening, running up Tam when it's snowing, and like getting great content from that. It feels, you get that FOMO. So like, what is the secret to that? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, the short answer is I wish I knew. So
I was like, he has it. Right.
so I do know, like, you got to shout out to the original people. So like a Brett and a Jorge, like they started that community way back when trail running was just taking off. We had all the hot runners in Mill Valley. Like Mill Valley was 5 of the top 10 in Western states were lived in Mill Valley one year. I mean, it was just crazy how much talent, and Dylan's back now in Marin, but like it was just crazy. It was a very good timing. Why is it called San Francisco Running Company? Because Brett couldn't open the store originally. Plan B was Mill Valley, so that's where the store is. So as an example, Kati, who's in the crowd here, they went up on Tam and Jesse on that Friday morning. Everybody knew, the chat was like, the chatter was high that this thing was going to happen. And I knew she was going to start because Jesse always starts like super, super early. We're talking like not even dark 30, like dark 30. Okay. And I knew she'd take a picture, and I was like, if we can get it on our Instagram early, we might have, like, it might be good. So I'm literally sitting in a doctor's office with my mom because she's getting hip replacement, getting her blood drawn, and I get the picture in from Jesse and Katya, 182, and I post it. And somehow I don't know what picked it up, but we were one of the first, whatever. And not to knock your guys' photos, but they weren't even that good of a photo. I mean, compared to, like, Tony was an hour or two later. Yeah, but anyway, it captured that like magic, right? So 2 hours later, I get an email from KGO, and then 30 minutes later, I'm on a Zoom call with is it Dion Kim, whatever. So I was on the 4 and 5 o'clock news that night because I knew that timing was everything on that photo, and so we had the most likes ever on that photo. Like it was just, and I can post what I think is a really great photo and get like 50 likes on Instagram. It was like you say, it's if people can connect. Everybody knew it was going to snow on Tam. We had this like fun group shot. You could see the snow, and it was very relevant. And again, it wasn't about how good the picture was. It was about, did it capture people's emotions? And that's why the news crew even called me. Like, and I on that one I knew it was like timing too. I instantly called back. We did the quick video. I made sure I had my San Francisco running company jacket on, and I hadn't even showered that morning. It was like it was just like got in front of the yeah, and it was on TV, and it was fun. It's the second time I've ever been on TV, but the other one was not a very good reason to be on TV. But it was all about timing. So if you can get, and people I think felt that it was a genuine post, and so when you're genuine, and so circle back to this whole thing. If you're genuine and people feel that you're true to what you're trying to show, it resonates with people versus the like, hey, look, I did my, it's the new Garmin watch, and I really, it's like they need to do there are 2 social posts a month to brand, like it's so obvious when that happens versus like this is just a really cool thing that someone did. So
I think that like definitely translates into the community. I mean, as you mentioned, there are some incredible athletes that attend that Saturday run. And then there's like people like me. And it doesn't matter and if you're the slowest person, like people are going to be cheering for you. People are going to like pound that run, but they'll be waiting for you afterwards. You can go get, food together. It's at Good Earth. Like it's all a community. Or then you have someone who says, hey, I'll run with you like David. And he actually does. Like, and you're like, I'm sorry, I'm so slow. But it's, everybody wants you to feel welcome, whether you're bringing up the rear or, like seeing how fast you can go. And that's really special when it can be intimidating. So the barrier to entry can feel really high, but I think that you have cracked the code in terms of how to make it accessible.
I'll add to that. So it was a year and 15 months ago. So we had a few of the Trail Sisters kept showing up on Saturday morning, Sarah and Brandy being the 2 main ones. And I finally, I was having to start every Saturday morning because I didn't have anybody to do it. And now Chris does. He's my main man on Saturday mornings. And I saw, and Sarah just lives here in Fairfax, and I had her, I was like, come in late on San Anselmo at your closing, let's talk. I was like, how about you guys start once a month the Saturday morning run? Because you got this, they only had like 50 members at the time. She's like, oh, that's great. And now they have like 500 people on the club. So it was like, and they have the early start, they have the no drop run, they have like, it was like, okay, let's make this even more inclusive. And then that was a really big incentive to do that kind of stuff. So that was one of those like, we can make this a better community just with that one kind of simple addition. And then they enjoy planning their route, and sometimes they even do like 3 routes and all that stuff. We did the original Saturday morning one was only one distance, but we got a lot of input of like, I'm not into a 14-mile as my first trail run.
Welcome to SFRC.
Yeah, exactly. Originally what the idea was, you started at 8 because someone had to open the store, so that they'd do it in 2 hours. So that's what it was competitive. But now I'd say it's way more relaxed than that, and people are just out there having fun. There's not fast people there. It's just everybody kind of finds their groove on that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really good thing. And when I tell other store owners, like at the running event, which is in December, or in some other things I've been to, they're like, you have how many? And we're like, yeah. When you have, a lot of group runs are like 10 people. And when you have for 3 miles, when we have 50 for, nearly half marathon, like that's a big difference. So now we will have to be careful at some point. Like if we can't get to 100, like we'll have to split it up or something, because we will start getting noticed on the trails. So we got to be, a little careful on that one, but yeah, it's good fun. And especially like, this Saturday's, with the race coming up, we have to be careful. We have to be mindful of what other events are happening. And, sometimes the weather really brings the super hardcore people out there down to like 10, which was over New Year's or whatever. We only had like that one run with about 10 people, but they loved it. They were out there to just have fun in the rain. So
So you mentioned earlier, like one of the things you love about, okay, well, we're going to wrap up, but I don't know if we'll get to this in a few minutes, but one of the things you love about running is just the simplicity of it. And obviously you come from, tech. We've got a lot of tech. You're selling watches. We're selling super shoes. Like, what are your thoughts on all of the technology and running? In 4 minutes. Everything. Oh, 5. Okay.
So I'll cover a few things. Like, once you find a pair of shorts, stick with them, because those are like one of the most personal pieces of equipment that you can have. Find the right pair of shorts, because chafing will ruin your day. Know whether you need water. So that's not technical. That's more like you just got to find it, and you got to find the right socks. As far as shoes, I'm a Hoka guy. I've been a Hoka guy for 10 years now. It keeps me running. I need the padding. And so I think finding what works for you on the shoe level that doesn't give you blisters. Where's Susan? And stuff. You can try other things, but like if something works for you, don't change it. Like that's the other thing. I think a good watch, like if I've been doing this long enough, gone from like no GPS to now it's actually a watch and a GPS. Like I think that really helps, so you know where you are distance wise and elevation, and it really helps as a training guide. I think some people just like, oh, I just go and run. You're like, great, you're one of those rare people that can do that. That's fine. As far as you can really, cycling and all that stuff has like you can get into the grams and all that stuff. I just don't think for the average trail runner, like all that stuff matters. Is are you comfortable on the long run? And whether you need a hydration pack or handheld or like, that's all a personal preference, and the trends go here and there. But if you're comfortable on the long run, whatever equipment, whatever shoes you're wearing, whatever shorts you're wearing and stuff, that is the most important, because at the end you want to be like, wow, that was great. I want to go do that again tomorrow. And we have carbon plated shoes and we have all that kind of stuff, but in the end of the day, it's really comes down to how talented. I mean, the talented person, you can put clogs on them and they're still going to beat you up the hill. But are you comfortable? And it's really, really important to be, it shouldn't be a suffer fest, except maybe in a really, really long run. But if you're going out for an hour running, it should be, the first mile might suck, but by the end you're like, I've never finished a run that I was, upset about. And maybe that first mile was always kind of a horrible thing, but it's like you just want to finish happy and glad you did it and move on to the next thing for the day.
Love that.
That's great. So I think we're going to take a question from the audience, and then we'll wrap up with one final question. So do we have a question?
What are you looking for as a race to achieve now? The result in a new race, or what do you want to achieve next?
Okay, so the question is, what's an achievement that you want from your next race?
I'm in UTMB in September, so
Take me with you.
yeah.
I'm first.
You're gonna have to wrestle. There's someone in the crowd here that you're gonna have to wrestle for that one. Running around Mount Blanc will be. I was there in Chamonix last August. Caught the bug. I had qualified from when the race was canceled in 2020, so I got grandfathered in. But that'll be a really, really cool adventure to go around there. I'm hoping I take a little less than 40 hours, but it's going to be a grand adventure. That's for sure.
It's exciting.
Do you want to just rapid fire?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to end with some fun rapid fire questions. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. We got it like quick. Okay. Favorite place for a long run in the Bay Area?
North side of Mount Tam.
If you could go on a long run with anyone, they don't have to be a runner, they don't even have to be alive right now, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Rapid, yeah. As a person, I don't actually have a good answer. I don't have an answer for that one. Sorry.
We can come back to it.
Come back. Favorite local race? I think I know the answer.
Quad Dipsy.
Okay, finish the sentence. When I'm not running, you can find me.
In my office or at one of the stores.
Okay, final, last, most important question. Burger, burrito, or pizza?
Burger.
Where are you going?
To where to eat the burger? What's the one down the burger place here? Down. Yeah, Phyllis's Giant Burger. I totally blanked on that one.
Well, Ted, thank you so much for joining us, for cultivating this community, and for being our guinea pig for our first live podcast guest. It was a great one. We're so grateful. Thanks, everyone.